Hello everyone, welcome back to episode 2 of Everyone Can Try. We're really excited to come back with another episode. I think everyone enjoyed episode 1. We had some great feedback, so thank you so much for letting us know what your thoughts were. For this week's episode, we are going to be talking about methodology with Andy and Johnny. So here we go.
Thank you very much, Grace. And I think that the first part of this, Johnny, is a little bit of a crossover with the philosophy. So we'll just touch on that really slightly. And that was the aim of following the 80-20 rule and keeping and volume is key. Do you want to touch on that a little bit before we move on to the nitty-gritty of methodology?
Yeah, last week's pod obviously went down well, talking about philosophy and the philosophy that we've developed over years and years of triathlon training. But yeah, and the two, major points of that to build on is volume is key. In a simple way, the more volume you do, the better you get. To an extent, obviously, once you start going over the top of that cliff, if you start doing 50, 60 hours and doing ridiculous stuff, then that actually probably won't help. But up to a certain point, the more you do, the better you get. And then also the 80-20 rule, which is something that's been talked about for a long time now. And people know what it is, but do they actually necessarily follow it? I don't know. But that is that 80% of your volume of training should be easy, and then 20% of it should be hard. And for me, the way that that falls is pretty simple. Is on a Tuesday, I'll swim hard and run hard in the morning and the evening. Thursday, more of a tempo kind of day. Saturday morning, run is hard, but the rest of my volume around that week is very easy. For example, on a Wednesday, I'll get up to, 7-8 hours of easy volume training, and on a Sunday it's the same. It'd be 6-7 hours of easy volume training as well. So the vast majority of my training is that easy long volume. And a lot of people, when I've trained with them before, have kind of gone out for a bike ride with me when I'm doing that easy volume and gone, oh wow, this is a lot easier than I thought. I didn't realize that pro athletes actually train this easy. I thought you train hard the whole time, which is obviously not the case.
Interestingly, I know we spoke about last week, but it's the distinct difference between running hard. Johnny, give us a hard K. Say 6 by 1K. What sort of pace are you doing, and what's your easy pace?
Yeah, so if I was to do 6 by a K with, a decent recovery and 90-second recovery on the track, I'd be looking to run about 250 pace nowadays. If I was to take all the recovery out of that and do a 30-second recovery, obviously we're down to more kind of 3 minute per kilometre pace. But for easy running, for example, I run last night. I did an easy hour. I was a bit tired, and I ran it averaging at 450 per K pace. So you see there's a big difference between the fast pace and the easy pace running. That's almost 2 minutes per kilometre difference. And I see some people go out and do their hard sessions at 410, 415 per kilometre, and then do the easy runs at 440 per kilometre. And I'm like, there's not much difference there between the easy stuff and the hard stuff. So yeah, I like that difference. And my run coach actually once said to me, Malcolm Brown, many years ago, said it's actually easy to run fast, but can you run slow? And for a lot of runners, running slow is actually harder than running fast. When you're running slow, obviously, you still want to think about your technique. You still want to think about moving well, and picking your legs up, your arm carry being nice and relaxed. But you want to run properly slow, but you still want to be able to run slow and recover. Like I've always believed that, for your body and training wise, there's not that much difference. It's not going to do much for your heart and your lungs running at 430 pace over running at 445 pace, for example. But it could tire you out more. So, what's the point? You want to keep your easy training easy.
And the easy runs, for me, have you ever got to a point where you have been really tired during the week? You've had you're in for example, the third week of a block, and you've just gone, do you know what? For me, that's it for me today. Has that ever cropped up in your sort of training week?
Yeah, well, so I guess that's when you can't start going to the overtraining it, that is have you overtrained or has life got too much as well? Because a lot of your tiredness in training, I believe, comes from outside of training as well. If you've had a stressful week with lots going on, it could be anything, family occasions or late nights or stress or whatever. And definitely. And my philosophy for that is if you start the session feeling tired, that's normally okay because that's pretty normal. That shows you're training hard and you're in a high volume stage. But if you don't warm up and you never feel great in a session and you're not hitting those times, then that's when you might have to change it. If you're miles off the pace, then there's no point pushing through it. You might be better stopping that day and then coming back the next day and going again. Another thing for that is don't try and catch up. If you go to a Tuesday night track session and it's just those days, life's got too much, you're tired, you're way off the pace, say I should be running 800s on the track at 220 pace and I'm running there at 230 pace and I'm feeling awful, call it a day, but then don't try and catch it up the day after. Just get back into your routine and then go from there. As far as easy running and easy volume goes, if I've got an easy run and I have to be really, really tired to not be able to do that. I will change my route, for example. If I'm really tired, I'll go to the forest and choose those single track trails where I can run really slow and I don't care if I'm running at 5:30 pace. If I'm really tired, I won't choose a straight, boring bit of road where I just feel terrible and all you can see is the straight road in front of you. I'll make sure I choose a route which is more interesting and just still get through it because you have to be really tired not to get that volume in.
I noticed that when we did the sort of initial recce, then the official recce, and we've got our next training camp coming up in February, and I noticed that you do that. It's incredible that I suppose I'm to blame for this. For some of the training I've done that. It's all road, and having done those training camps, making it gravel, undulating, interesting. There's a lot to be said for that, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. I think for a few reasons. One, I think if you run on the gravel and off road, it's far better for your joints. You haven't got the impact on your joints. And if I can go out and then I can run for 10k on nice gravel, and it is actually a recovery run. It's not a real, you're not pounding those joints again. Secondly, I actually think the changing ground is good for you. Changing direction. If you're not careful, then running in a straight line continuously it's the same pattern time and time again. But firstly, your bones don't like that. There's a lot of research now which say that bones like different impacts. So from different angles, that can be done on in the gym from jumping from side to side, or different jumps, or it can be done on the trails. Because if you're on the trails, you're not running in a straight line. You are going around corners. Your foot landing slightly different every time. And then also it makes it more interesting. I've never understood these people who want to do a 10k run and go and do 5k out in a straight line, turn around and do 5k back. For me, when I'm tired, there's nothing worse than that. I'll just be looking at my watch the whole time going, oh, I've only done 1k. I've got another 4k in this straight line. I'd much rather just know it's a 40-minute loop and go and do it, for example, and then make that loop as interesting as possible. And again, like we talked about last week, is training should be fun. The vast majority of it should be fun. You want to make it easy to get out the door. And a part of that is if you're going on an interesting run, it's far easier to get it done. You can do it on those trails rather than do it on a straight road or a treadmill. Again, treadmill running is something that I avoid, especially if I'm very, very tired, because there's nothing worse than getting on a treadmill, starting off at a really slow pace and going, well, wow, this feels really, really, really hard. Whereas if I go to a local forest, you sit off and do a loop, and then before you know it, you're done.
I think what will be great now is just breaking those disciplines down. So we've obviously got swim, cycle, run. And I think that the swimming element, it's interesting you said about swimming and being more efficient and working on the efficiency of swimming.
Yeah, so triathlon swimming for me and for Alistair and Brownie Fitness is, well, what we believe is it's slightly different to normal swimming. Obviously, if you're wanting to do, if you're a 200-meter pool swimmer, you want to be able to swim that 200 meters as fast as you can. It's all about swimming powerful stroke, good turns, big leg kick, a real strong stroke. With a triathlon swim, one, because it's open water, and then secondly because it's the start of the race, and it's only the small kind of proportion of the race, an important proportion, but still a small proportion. You want efficiency is absolutely key for triathlon swimming. We believe that basically you want to get through the swim, obviously as fast as you can, but as efficient as you can as well. I'd much rather someone could swim a pace that was, slightly slower but efficient. So they're not getting out of the water absolutely shattered. That they've not used their legs. They're not getting onto the bike going, "Oh, that's it, my race is over." You want to get through that triathlon swim as efficient as possible. So for us, we've always tackled that in a way that we've chosen paces, and for us those paces don't necessarily change throughout the whole year or even throughout my career, really, for the last 10 years. And but you want them to feel as easy and efficient as possible. So for me, those paces are if I'm doing a VO2 max session, so that could be anything up to 1,500 meters of effort broken into blocks with decent recovery, hundreds, 50s, 75s, maybe 150s. I'll aim for kind of a 65, 64 per 100 pace. For me, for threshold, that's somewhere between 68 and 70 seconds per 100 pace. I'll do up to 3K worth of that in a session. And then we have a kind of more of an easy aerobic pace, which is 120 per 100, and a high aerobic pace, which is 115 per 100. And there's days when I can definitely swim faster than that, and I actually personally sometimes don't try and swim faster than that. I try and swim more efficient. So I base my swimming ability on how I can feel at those paces and how easy I can feel at those paces. So for me, if I get through a Thursday threshold set of 3K and I've swum 69 seconds per 100, and it's felt easy, that's a massive thing for me. That's actually better for me than say swimming slightly faster, but I know it's too hard, because I know for triathlon in the open water and because start of the race, you want to get through that as efficiently as possible. So I'm constantly during a swim session looking at the pace, working on my stroke, changing strokes, leg kick, anything to try and make it as efficient as possible. I'm constantly during a swim going, what if I try this? If I move my head down, move my head up, if I kick a little bit more, kick a bit less, I'm always doing that during a swim.
Going from the swimming into the cycling element, it's interesting that you've got here volume. Now, when I was originally just a runner and I got injured and I took up the cycling, I was amazed actually before I took up duathlon how much putting easy rides into my week, how much my running improved. And going into the duathlon, obviously the triathlon element, you've got here, volume. And it'd be great to hear you go through that, because it does help massively, doesn't it? Just adding that extra bit onto your week if you can.
Yeah, cycling is just an easy way of getting that volume in. And if you talked about it before, volume's key. And cycling is a way of getting that volume into your training week without getting injured. And for us, the belief is volume for cycling itself is absolutely key. If we see young athletes coming through, older athletes, we say if you want to improve your cycling and your overall fitness, get the volume in on the bike. Very much for me, it is all about volume. I tend to do 1 or 2 sessions a week max for cycling, of which some weeks I'll do 50 minutes, an hour and a half of effort in a 18-20 hour training cycling week. So it is just volume. I think for a few reasons. One, it's really good to build that aerobic base. It's an easy way of doing it in cycling. And then secondly, a bit like for swimming in a way, to get that stroke, the cycling and pedaling efficiency, the only way to get that is through volume. When I've done a good volume week of cycling, I feel that my pedaling's great. I feel like I can turn the pedals smoothly. There's no dead spots in my pedaling. When I've been to the hills in Spain as well, I've done those long 2-hour climbs. I come back and my pedaling just feels beautiful. So I think, volume for cycling is absolutely key.
When you go out sometimes, I suppose it's a bit like, what you've said in the swimming element. Is there sometimes when you go out riding and you are just adding that volume in, you just pick a focus where you go, I'm just going to work on this element, during this ride today?
Yeah, so I'm constantly working on something. So that could be pedaling technique, that could be keeping it smooth as well, not standing up on the hills, not having those surges where you sprint up a hill and then freewheel at the top, but more keep it consistent. So your pedaling's great. Obviously, there's times when I do bike sessions where I've got more of a focus. That could be more when I'm focusing on my time trial bike. I could be focusing on position or holding that 70.3 pace or nutrition. So it's definitely not just volume pedaling away. You're looking at the nice daffodils or anything like that. You are thinking about what you're doing. But at the same time, it's about making that volume as easy as possible for you. So if you can do that with other people, that obviously massively helps. If you're a person who needs a bit more of a stimulus to get the volume, there's different ways of doing that. You can split it up into longer zone 2 efforts if you want, just to kind of have that focus. But yeah, the most important thing is to definitely get that volume in.
In the running side of things, we've just spoke about one end, the easy running, and obviously the quality sessions. You've got here, building speed for running efficiency. So touch on that a little bit, because running easy is great, and again, it's hard to do that, but really making those speed sessions helps you develop that speed economy, that running economy, doesn't it?
Yeah. This is something that my coach is the last 20 years have really worked on. Malcolm Brown and Ian Mitchell as well, and Mitch still coaches me now. And that is the kind of belief that if you want to run well, you have to run fast, and that's where you learn how to run well, and you learn that efficiency of running. And I've actually really learned that recently, in that I spent a lot of the winter doing more tempo sessions, longer build runs at kind of 320 per kilometer pace, up to 22k consistent of that straight through. And I kind of felt that something was missing. I was kind of capped. And then over the last few weeks, building towards a Super Tri-E, I went back to the track and started to do more of that traditional 5-6k track sessions where I'm getting down to 240 per kilometre pace for shorter distances than a kilometre. And suddenly my running feels great again now, because it feels way easier now running at 3-minute, 320k pace than it did before. I think because I've got that speed reserve, I've got that technique from running super fast. When I now drop back to the 320k pace, I just feel that I can just jog through that now. And I think that's the case for everyone. If you want, say your 70.3 running pace is 4 minutes per kilometre, if you just sit it at that pace or even a little bit slower, I don't think that's the right way to do it. I think you need to drop it down to running shorter reps at 330 per kilometre pace, for example, getting that efficiency, getting that technique, getting that high hips, the quick cadence, so that when you do drop it back to your 70.3 pace, it should feel really, really easy. And I also, to build on that, I believe, I know I'm not talking to everyone here, but for younger athletes coming through, I think between the ages of kind of 15 and 21, 22 is where you build that running speed up. And if you don't, as a triathlete, build that running mechanics in those early years, it's really hard to then ever get it again. And it becomes harder. The older you get, it becomes harder. And I'm definitely at that stage now, in that I'm really efficient at the 320k pace. I'm really efficient now at that. I actually feel great. And the going down to a track on a Tuesday night with the younger lads is what I really struggle at, because the speed, it's not as easy as for me to access. I have to work harder. And that doesn't mean I should stop doing it, because I actually think I need it more than ever. Because if I don't have that speed reserve, then I really struggle even that kind of slower running. So to everyone out there who is training for triathlon, even the longer distance, you might think, I can just run around at a nice kind of more controlled pace all the time. I genuinely believe that's not the right way to do it. drop some sessions in where you're running way faster than race pace, and then your race pace will feel far, far easier. Those sessions aren't much fun, initially anyway. The first time that I did it this year, I was going down to the track and I felt like I was sprinting. My legs were going round at 100 miles an hour. My arms are going everywhere, but gradually it gets easier. So persevere with it, and the faster running becomes easier.
Bringing that all together, sort of lastly, it would be the routine. It crops up a lot actually within the squad that, trying to make it easy as possible for you to achieve those sessions. So what I do personally, I go in the week before and I sort of move things around based off, family life and everything else is going off. And I put it in there. So actually the hours and what I'm going to do on each day becomes just a little bit more accessible and doable.
Routine is absolutely key in all life, and especially training life. I'm a very, very, very routine person. If I don't have a routine, I really struggle. And first, routine obviously makes it easy for the practical side of it, because hopefully if you stick to routine, you know that you can get to the pool and find the lane at 7 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, and that's when it works to do your hard session, for example. You're not rushing around at lunchtime going, I don't know what pool I'm going to swim in. I don't know if it's going to be quiet. You know where it stands. You also, if you don't do it, you don't feel right as well, because I know, for example, on a Tuesday, if I don't get my hard VO2 swimming and my hard run, I feel a bit awkward and I haven't feel like I've kind of missed something. And you want a sustainable routine. Again, there's no point doing something that works for 1 week and then it's not going to work for next week. So if you can build that sustainable routine, it will lead to consistency, which, as we said before, consistency is absolutely key.
Johnny, thank you so much for this. It's such a vast subject. We could continue all day, couldn't we, with that? And I'm sure we'll revisit it with all the podcasts that we're going to bring to you. And thank you so much for that insight as to day in a life of what you do.
Perfect. No, thank you. I really enjoyed that again, and hopefully everyone learned something then. And thank you very much again.
Amazing. Well, I definitely learned something, so that's for sure. And I'm only a beginner runner, so I know that I need to get faster and do some fast sessions, because I keep just doing like gentle sessions and just enjoying the sunshine, which is definitely not what I need to do. So amazing. Thank you guys so much. So we're going to go into Athlete of the Week. Last week it was Johnny, our very own, after Super Tri E. And this time we have chosen Marius Kwint. So we're going to go over to Marius. We've asked him a few questions related to training, all things, and over to him after we had a little chat and asked him about how he finds it all. So welcome, Marius. Thank you so much for joining our podcast. We're thrilled to have you as Athlete of the Week. So welcome onto the podcast.
Thank you very much, Grace, and I'm thrilled to be invited. It's a real honor.
It's so nice to have you. So we wanted to ask you a few questions to any athletes that are listening, but also just because we're curious as well. How did you get onto multisport?
Well, really through three main routes, I suppose. The first of those was running. So I was always into, I think from about the age of 14, I was kind of quite into running and got into club running. And at about that age, 14, 15. So that was a good sort of basis in sort of endurance sport. And I partly did that really, I suppose, because I wasn't so good at the kind of conventional sports of, football, cricket and that kind of stuff. I wasn't so great at ball sports. And so running seemed to be something that you could train at and get good at. I wouldn't say I was particularly talented to start with, but I did sort of get up to county championship level, although it was in Suffolk, which is quite a flat county. So we tended to get beaten when we went up north, for the English championships and all the hilly courses and so on. So running, excuse me, I've just...
no worries.
I've just overcome COVID, so I've got a bit of a tickly throat. But so that was one of the, that was a good, strong basis. And then also I did rowing when I was at university. And I quite got into that. And again, just did that at college level rather than the whole university. I did my postgraduate at Oxford, but I still enjoyed that kind of endurance sport challenge. And I did a little bit of cycling when I was there as well. I'd always ridden a bike around the place and stuff. So, and I thought I'd sort of put the two together. So rowing was extremely demanding in terms of commitment, time and organizational effort and so on. But I still wanted to do something with my fitness and strength. So I got into, I decided to try triathlon, I think at the behest of two people that I met in the university gym where I was then working. And I remember, I'll just mention their names, Mike Ballard and then Linda Connor as well, two people who encouraged me to join the Southampton Triathlon Club, which had been established in the 80s. And I kind of never really looked back after that. So I've been doing it a long time. That was in 1998. So yeah, I've been at it quite a while. And I suppose my wife kindly supported that move, going into a new sport, and I enjoyed the variety of it. The fact that you're always trying to learn different disciplines, and you're always trying to develop the complexity of the challenge of a triathlon, including transitions and so on. And I'm still learning, and that's certainly something that I've found interesting. It's been a long and very rewarding journey.
It definitely sounds it, by the sounds. And what was your favorite discipline if you had to choose?
Well, that's interesting in a way because I think it changes over time. Initially, because I came from a predominantly running background, and I used to sort of do pretty well in that stage of the race, and I'd gain a lot of places. That it would probably be, I would say, running, and I tended to be biased towards running, and still be, as I am still a member of a running club and do lots of races with them, as individual standalone races, cross country, road racing, and that kind of stuff. But I think in recent years, and particularly after COVID, when I got into Zwift, as a lot of people did, so that's indoor, virtual racing, and of course involving training. And I got into that, and I actually started working much harder than I had previously done on the bike. I mean, I'd always gone out for hard rides and stuff with the club and things like this, but the kind of regular racing, and really at a kind of very competitive level, through things like the WTRL time trials, the team time trials and things every Thursday and stuff. So, and I organized a kind of a local club version, or a local club team, as during COVID, during the lockdown and so on, and then for a couple of years after that. And so I got into that, and that really intensified the cycle training, and I got better at cycling and started enjoying that more. So I'd say probably my bias has shifted a little bit towards cycling. I think probably in terms of the best bit for you, it's often really what you tend to do most of at any one time. So there are moments when I really get quite into swimming, and it makes a nice change. That's the joy of triathlon, I think. I think I would have got bored if I just stayed a runner, and probably would have wrecked my knees anyway and stuff like that. Whereas I think you can kind of change the emphasis a bit. It's probably not 100% ideal from a strict training perspective. You maybe should try and balance them all out, but sometimes the bias shifts a bit, and I think that's interesting to sort of develop and explore one of the disciplines a little bit more than the other at any one time.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice to see that you've had a journey with your disciplines, that you've gone from running and you're going back to biking, and you like that.
Yes.
But also it's really great, like you said, with triathlon, you can just choose any one and enjoy each one, and that's the brilliance about it.
Yes, I think, that's true. Sorry, go on.
No, carry on.
Well, I was just going to add that I think one of the rewarding things about it is that even with the biking, so I'm nearly 60. I'm 60 in less than 2 weeks' time, I think, about 10 days or a week's time, I think. I'm trying to think, 30th of April, whenever that is. But so I'm obviously no spring chicken, but what I've found certainly with that intensified training on Zwift and so on during COVID, is that I'm actually quicker on the bike than I used to be, when I was like 35, and but also that then improves your whole game. So actually, my overall times are pretty comparable to what they were, 20 years ago or something like that. So you can really concentrate. And then probably if I was to concentrate on swimming and develop that, which is somewhat neglected of late, I could probably scrape a bit of time off that one as well. So it is interesting to have that, those areas that you can develop which mitigate the effects of age a bit. Obviously, running is something that is probably a little bit more age affected than most of the other sports, but that is again quite rewarding. I mean, it's obviously different for professional athletes or elite athletes like Johnny and Al and so on, who have obviously performing at a pitch and a level where you are going to noticeably slow down in all three disciplines as you age, probably, but on the whole. But that for someone of my level, sort of a good age grouper level, that it's something where you can still develop, I think, and that's what keeps it interesting.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So since you've joined Brownlee Fitness, what would you say is your favourite part about being part of the squad?
I think it's kind of being part of a performance-oriented group, and one which is willing to discuss the finer points of the sport, as well as being one that is encouraging more sort of entry-level athletes to get involved and so on. So it's trying, it's being inclusive from that point of view. And also, of course, the involvement, particularly of Johnny in recent weeks and months and stuff, and Al as well, and Alistair, that has kind of been encouraging, because you feel you're getting it from the horse's mouth, as it were. So, that performance insight. And I'm very impressed by the way that they're happy to, advise and pitch in, as well as the other, great coaches that we've got, like Bucko and so on, and so I think that's really good to have their involvement. Yeah. So it's that, and a kind of sense that you can spot people in races because of the distinctive kit has been nice, and kind of a bit of camaraderie across a broad geographical area. I mean, it's an international group, so that's always interesting. We have the chats, when we're doing Zwift sessions and things like that, Zwift races, we'll have a chat online. So all that kind of stuff, is really good.
Oh, it's great to hear that. And if you were to reflect back on your multi-sport so far, what would you say is your most embarrassing moment that you've had, to end it on a bit of a funny note?
There are quite a few of those kind of embarrassing moments, but triathlon being the kind of sport that it is. But I think the funniest bit I remember was, and I can't even remember which year it was maybe around 2004 or 5 or somewhere around then. And it was with Southampton Tri Club, and we'd organised to do the National Relays, which is a race in Nottingham. It's a club relay race. So you each kind of do a mini triathlon. But not all that many actually, but and there was one bit of it. We unfortunately, the guy who entered us into the competition had entered us basically into the wrong race. I think it was too late to enter into the main club competition, and it's effectively entered us into a kind of elite team relay, where we all had to sort of follow each other rather than going one after another. It was everybody did the triathlon in a team, like a kind of time trial team together at the same time. And we were so disorganized that we put all our kit, I think our running shoes were on the wrong side of the fence for transition. So, and this was not just a little fence, this was a huge, like 6-foot fence. And this was in front of the tannoy and everything like that. So, like in a big kind of arena at Nottingham at the National Water Sports Centre with a like a grandstand and everything like that. We're right in front of that. And the commentators, we all had to actually looked like the Keystone Cops or something, all climbing over this fence to get to our bikes after we'd sort of changed that to get onto the course after we changed into our running gear. So, and the commentator said something like, "Oh, you can see, and Southampton have really messed this one up," and we were all like, "Oh no!" And like hundreds and hundreds of people were just laughing at us. So it was really. It was quite embarrassing, and needless to say, we didn't do terribly well in that particular race. But so yeah, that was probably the funniest bit, the being pointed out. There were other funny moments, again, often associated with relays. So, but that was probably the crowning glory.
I can imagine. One to remember, and definitely one for the books, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, and I think Andy McGee who's a much respected coach with Brownlee Fitness as well, and a friend as well. And we shared a room in Romania at the World Duathlon Championships a few years ago, about 3 years ago. And he'll remember an incident where I took the wrong turn, but that wasn't really quite so funny. But I took a wrong turn and went into transition early because of various complications. It wasn't entirely my fault, I hold, but that was unfortunate because I missed a medal in that one as well. So it was a bit of a long story, but yeah. But Andy can tell you about that in due course.
Oh, I look forward to asking you about that after this.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Marius, for taking the time, and congratulations again for being Athlete of the Week for Brownlee Fitnesses. And looking forward to seeing you in future races. And basically wrapping up onto next week's session, which we're going to be discussing heat training, which is a vast topic and one that Johnny definitely wanted to cover, and so did Andy. A lot of education has gone out to the squad regarding this, so the squad members who have seen that, let us know what you think, and any more questions that you guys have related to the podcast, feel free to email myself. I will pop the email in the podcast, and we will also be doing a Google form for you to ask us any questions that you've got on your mind. It's been another great podcast session. We've really enjoyed this one, and we're looking forward to our next one. And again, please share if you guys have listened to this, and if you've got any value, we love to see the messages, and we love to see anything social related as well. So thank you guys so much. And again, thanks to Andy and Johnny for popping on.
Well, thank you very much.